I opened the door quietly, already exhausted before the evening had even begun, my mind replaying the familiar worries that had followed me for months, and then I froze so completely that I forgot how to breathe. The room was dim, the curtains half drawn, and there, framed by the soft glow of a bedside lamp, was my boss, seated in the rocking chair, my baby cradled against her chest, feeding with the calm, intimate rhythm only a mother usually knows. For a single suspended second, the world cracked open, and everything I believed about my life, my work, and the woman I thought I knew began to unravel. If stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected human bonds move you, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles, because what happened next is not just a story about shock, but about healing, grace, and the quiet miracles that change us forever. Before that moment, my life had been a careful balancing act held together by exhaustion and stubborn hope. Becoming a single parent had not been part of my plan, yet there I was, moving through days like a shadow, juggling long hours at work with sleepless nights and a constant, low hum of fear that I was failing at both. My boss was known as composed, distant, and intimidating in a way that made people straighten their backs when she entered a room. She ran the company with precision and discipline, and I had always admired her from afar while keeping a safe emotional distance. When she offered me flexible hours after my maternity leave, I accepted with gratitude, telling myself it was professional courtesy and nothing more. Still, nothing about my life felt easy. My baby struggled to feed properly, my body struggled to recover, and my heart struggled with the grief of raising a child without the partner I once imagined would be there. Nights were long and lonely, and mornings came too soon. I lived in a haze of coffee, worry, and love so fierce it hurt. When childcare fell through one afternoon due to an emergency, my boss surprised me again by offering to let me bring my baby to her home for a few hours while I finished an urgent project nearby. I hesitated, every instinct screaming that it crossed some invisible line, but desperation has a way of silencing pride. Her home was nothing like I expected. Instead of cold minimalism, it felt warm, lived in, and quietly gentle. Family photographs lined the shelves, not glossy or posed, but real moments captured mid-laughter and mid-life. She showed me where my baby could nap and assured me everything would be fine. I left with a knot in my stomach, trying to convince myself that trust was sometimes necessary for survival. When I returned earlier than planned, that knot turned into something else entirely. The image I walked into felt impossible, almost surreal. My first instinct was panic, followed by confusion, followed by a strange, aching stillness. I stood there, unseen, watching the rise and fall of her breath, the way her hand supported my baby's back, the look on her face that was nothing like the woman I knew at work. It was tender, sorrowful, and deeply familiar, as though she had done this many times before and carried the weight of each one. In that silence, memories rushed through me. The way she sometimes lingered when my baby was nearby. The softness in her eyes she never showed in meetings. The unspoken understanding when I came in tired and barely holding it together. Suddenly, all the small moments I had dismissed as coincidence aligned into something meaningful and unsettling. I stepped back involuntarily, my heart pounding, unsure whether to announce myself or disappear. When she finally noticed me, the shock on her face mirrored my own, but there was no guilt, no defensiveness. Only a deep, exposed vulnerability that made my chest ache. She carefully finished, settled my baby, and turned toward me. Her composure stripped away. What followed was not a confrontation, but a revelation that would reshape everything I thought I understood about strength and love. Years earlier, she had lost a child. Not to illness or accident, but to circumstances so painful she had buried them beneath layers of work and control. Breastfeeding, she explained through quiet emotion and steady breaths, had been one of the few times she felt whole, connected, and needed. When she heard my baby crying inconsolably and instinct took over, she had not thought about boundaries or titles or consequences. She had simply responded as a mother who remembered what it felt like to be needed in that way. The room felt heavy with shared grief, though our losses were different. In that moment, I understood that beneath her authority lived a woman who had survived heartbreak by building walls so strong that even she sometimes forgot what was locked inside. And I realized that my fear had not been about betrayal, but about the terrifying intimacy of being seen so completely in my own vulnerability. The days that followed were marked by quiet changes. At work, nothing was spoken aloud, yet everything felt different. There was a gentleness in her leadership, a patience that seemed to ripple outward. For me, something inside loosened. I began to accept help without shame, to trust that community could exist in unexpected places, and that motherhood did not have to be a solitary struggle. My baby began to thrive, feeding better, sleeping more peacefully, as though sensing the shift in the emotional air around us. Our relationship evolved into something grounded in mutual respect and unspoken understanding. She never crossed a boundary again, yet the bond remained, subtle, profound, and life-altering. She became a quiet mentor, not just professionally, but in teaching me that strength does not mean isolation, and that love, when offered freely and appropriately, can heal wounds we thought were permanent. As time passed, I saw her differently. Not just as a boss, but as a survivor who had chosen to transform loss into compassion. And I saw myself differently too, not as someone barely coping, but as a parent capable of growth, forgiveness, and resilience. The shock of that day became the turning point that redefined my understanding of kindness, reminding me that sometimes the most transformative moments arrive disguised as fear. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that humanity is often hidden beneath roles and titles, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles to support stories that celebrate empathy, healing, and the power of second chances. And before you go, leave a comment sharing what this story made you feel, because your words might be the comfort or courage someone else needs today.